My name's Nathaniel from Vitality Hemp at Sussex. So I'll just kind of talk you through how I got into hemp and my initial introduction to it. So I started researching a number of years ago. I started using hemp foods, CBD as well, so playing around with cannabinoids for treatments and things like that. So that was a kind of introduction a while ago. And as soon as you start researching, as you're here at Hempfest, as I'm sure you're aware, as soon as you start researching hemp, you just kind of get impassioned about it, and you find out more and more stories unfurl and the history that we've kind of had with this plant for generations and centuries and centuries. And there's kind of evidence from China from way back in the day, kind of the early kind of form of Buddhism, and the founder of Buddhism, it was said that he was under a tree and he existed on hemp seed alone. So it's kind of stories like that permeate through our culture, that we constantly have this relationship with the plant, and it's only just been the last 80 years kind of prohibited and kind of taken away from us. So yeah, when you realise these kind of injustices, it's really there's only one choice: to kind of get involved. And I kind of looked at the UK industry and what we're doing over here. I realised we're importing so much hemp. We're using hemp foods and hemp in a number of other industries in small ways, but a lot of the hemp foods in particular are imported. So we're using hemp food, shelled hemp, which is great, but it's been bought over in China. It might have an organic certification, but it's going to be blasted with all kinds of UV rays, chemicals, put it in a shipping container, ships around halfway around the world. So that kind of has a massive impact. So the mileage that's done, even though it's got incredible properties and people understand the nutritional value, it's also about the environmental value and the impact. And you realise that that's kind of gone for a hell of a lot of mileage to get there, when we can actually grow it perfectly well here, and we have been doing for centuries. It seems quite mad. So a big part of that research was realising that kind of want to reconnect with the environment myself, and to kind of tune my own kind of cycles in with nature a bit more, to understand how things are kind of brought to your table, brought to your plate, and I think that goes along with hemp very well, because it's been largely overlooked for a long time. In terms of, obviously, nutrition, it's incredible, but it's reconnecting and understanding how it's grown and how things are grown, which is very important as well. And it's obviously, people are very much more aware of where they're buying their food and ingredients and their meat and things like that, or vegetables or whatever it is. Its provenance is very important, because we're blasted with all kinds of chemicals and mass-produced and manufactured ingredients which are making us all sick. So it's a kind of a reaction to a lot of chemicals and processed foods which are going into our bodies, and they're causing a lot of problems. So we want to produce the highest quality natural products. So we've been growing conventional in the last couple of years, and we've been playing around and researching and understanding about how it grows and producing the best products that we can. All the processes that we go through are completely natural. We're cold pressing the oil, and we're extracting cannabinoids, and we're playing around with different research of how to make products in a very kind of simple, traditional way. So it's very hands-on. A lot of mistakes are made, and it's a very exciting learning process, but we need to attain the kind of highest quality, and that's what we're trying to go for. And also responsible products. So obviously I mentioned about the environment. These products are kind of, they're responsibly sourced. We want to empower the consumer, the customer, but also with the model that we're approaching, we're trying to encourage people to help to develop the local rural economy. So it's empowering people to actually play a part in bringing food to people's plates. So that's a big part of what we're doing. engaging the agricultural and rural communities. Just an infographic which has a number of different facts. Obviously none of you can see it unfortunately because it's not on the slide, but it goes through. There's 50,000 different products that you can make from hemp known today, and that's going more and more every day. We'll see innovation, new technologies, new research. It's the most researched plant in the world at the moment. Phytocannabinoids are the most researched group of compounds, and that's not going to change because there's a lot of information we need to learn about it. But also in the textiles industry, there's technical fibres, there's clothing. So the automotive industry use it in their hemp paneling for BMW and Mercedes. Now it's starting to compete on that level. So the technical fibres are being used by these top-end automotive companies because it can compete on the bottom line, which is essential. Paper's a big one for me. The US Constitution was written on hemp paper, and a number of different kind of historical documents were written on hemp paper. So it's really kind of sparking that industry as well is an interesting part, and I think that's a very interesting aspect. So yeah, it's just showing you how you can make things from the leaves and the roots as well. Again, another aspect of the plant which is completely undervalued at the moment is the roots, and that's very interesting. We've got again a relationship with them for thousands of years in Ayurveda, and all kinds of different forms of medicine. Roots are used in tinctures and things like that, and it's very under researched and undervalued at the moment. So looking into that. So we started growing in 2014. We started the business in 2014, started growing in 2015, and it's been a steep learning curve, but we started with 10 acres and then had 25 acres the next year, which was a big jump, but it was a big learning curve, and it's been great. Just kind of learning along with the farmer who's never grown hemp. He's very conventional in terms of his approach, so naturally there's loggerheads in the way we're approaching things. But he's been very adept at changes and these challenges that we kind of keep getting faced. So the first year was a relative success, I think. We managed to harvest 7 tons from 10 acres, which was quite pleased with the yield of seed, but the actual weed coverage was quite substantial. So we kind of learnt that you have to prepare the soil a lot better, and bear in mind, well, Eve, you mentioned earlier about this year how it was a very challenging start to the growing season. So you rely a lot on the weather, but you also have to try and mitigate these potential impacts. And I think with Hedpen's story and my story, we both started around the same time, and we're learning these things very quickly. But yeah, preparation of the ground is very important. Obviously, selection of where you're growing as well is integral. We're very lucky in Sussex because we're on the same terroir as north of France. So where they're growing the most, the award-winning champagnes, the Champagne region has the same minerals and micronutrients and vitamins in the soil, and all these kind of incredible minerals in the soil. It's the same as northern France, so all of those go through to the plant and they're actually kind of absorbed very rapidly by hemp because it's got such an absorbent nature. Everything's taken up, which is a good and a bad thing. If you've got bad things in the soil, also you're going to get everything drawn out. So if they're pesticide residues, kind of heavy metals, then they will get absorbed very easily. So interestingly enough, that's also a positive because they're using hemp in industrial cleanups. In Italy in particular, they're using it for kind of chemical spills and things like that, where they've had issues of spillages and contaminated land. It clears it up in a year. So this is, I mean, rather than kind of spending a huge amount of money on paying for a remover, like a industrial chemical waste company, which costs a fortune, obviously, and we potentially subsidise that. Why not grow hemp when you can clear up these potential misdemeanors and industrial accidents, which do happen. You don't really hear about them, but they happen.
The hemp that's grown on that polluted land get used, or is it contaminated?
No. So I mean, if you're using it for the store, for fibre and for building materials, it wouldn't matter so much. But if you're using it for food and for CBD, then no, you wouldn't imagine using it at all. But that's the beauty of it, because there's so many different applications of hemp. If you to use it as a cleanup, kind of absorbing properties, then you'd be able to still use the material even as biomass effectively. I guess depends what chemicals you're clearing up, but yeah, if you do with the right agronomic information and chemical analysis, you'd be able to understand what that plant's absorbed, and you're still releasing oxygen and absorbing CO2, so it's still sequestering CO2 during its lifespan as well. So kind of win-win in some respects. Just a couple of photos from last year. This was, and it's fantastic, kind of being in and amongst the plants, as even anyone who's kind of been to a hemp field knows, the kind of the instant energy and the smell, and just you almost feel the cannabinoids and terpenes, and well, you smell the flavonoids and everything. All these kind of things, it's a perfect storm of going up, kind of absorbing into your skin. It's a really peaceful place to work, and you get kind of pride in what you're growing, so it's good. And oh god, so yeah, we combine with a regular combine, which is very good. Obviously, we don't have to, touch wood, so far haven't had to adapt any machinery. This is great. I mean, at some point we will have to look to some of the machinery providers, which there are a few who have adapted speciality machines. And there's one of my friends in Germany, who's fantastic, dual harvest machine, which harvests for seed and for fibre, which is great. But otherwise, you're talking into kind of millions of pounds worth of machinery if you're going to be harvesting specific varieties, because obviously they grow from Finola, which is this variety. It grows about 1.5 meters, 2 meters to up to 4 or 5 meters. Some of the fibre varieties. So obviously you're going to have some specialist equipment to be able to take that down. But yeah, like I said, we're very lucky with how we harvested it, but it's not without its challenges. It was still very green, so you have to harvest at the point where there's a certain amount of seeds which are ripe, but there's always going to be some that aren't ripe and some that are too ripe, so you've got to judge that. Generally, the weather and nature's a very good judge, so if you start seeing some seagulls kicking around, you know it's kind of getting close to the time when you need to get it in. So you're learning a lot through that, and also the challenges faced with using regular machinery. Luckily my landlord has this equipment available, but yeah, kind of if you have to invest in this kind of kit, it's very expensive. Even conventional farm equipment is obviously very, very expensive, which kind of leads me on to my next point. So this is, well, we're curing some of the leaves and buds there. Leads me on to my next point, which is the kind of the model which we're trying to set up in Sussex, of processing, mostly processing for food products. We're looking to grow organically in the area, but also have some satellite growers under license, and to attract more growers and farmers into the industry to grow. So it would be on a different location to where we're kind of based, and then we can, whether it be under my license or whether I'd help kind of set farmers and growers up with licenses.
That's crazy. So you are able to do that?
As long as you're growing under license and the license depicts the exact area, and there's a lot of conditions within that, But as long as it's documented and abiding by the law, then you have to make people aware. There's a number of different security issues and things like that. But to be growing in different areas, you need to show farmers that it is a viable crop, a good commodity for them to be kind of changing. They're not going to just kind of want to take a massive risk. But at the moment, it's a good opportunity and good time in terms of Brexit and food security as well. We're looking to reduce the amount of food that we're importing, and we need to really rely on what we can produce in the UK. And so it's a kind of a good opportunity to start making that conversation with farmers and re-engaging with them, because they've been stung before. The industry unfortunately kind of took a big knock when Hempcore collapsed, which is a big processor in Suffolk. But following on from that, the growers that were growing for them took a financial loss, so they're going to have their predispositions to actually growing hemp. It's kind of understanding what their fears are. We're working with some farming liaison organisations to actually kind of understand what their concerns are. So that's how we hope to kind of increase the acreage and hopefully reduce the amount of imports that we require. So,
what do you think that concerns are?
Sorry?
What do you think that concerns are? Farmers' concerns?
What do I think they're?
Concerns are,
They're our concerns. Sorry.
No, like the farmers' concerns.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Obviously the stigmatism, the legality issue, security, but that's insignificant really. They want to. So I'm half deaf. They have more concerns about the bottom line and making sure that they can sell their crop. So they work on contracts generally. So most crops will probably be bought before it's even sown. And hemp needs to get to that point where we have enough processing and enough of an industry, obviously customers and people processing and making food from different from hemp, but the processing aspect is a big element. So it's making sure that they have confidence in the whole supply chain, because if they're growing, you need to prove that you can sell it, and they're obviously concerned with losing out on money again, which you can understand totally. So but then the same respect, obviously with subsidies, a big part of farmers' income, and with our removal from the European Union, those subsidies are going to get kind of taken away.
Mostly as well, like most consumers are like young people and stuff like that. It's a stigma.
Yeah.
A lot to do with, you know.
Yeah. So again, another challenge of the industry. I mean, there's the regulations, which you have to abide by, obviously, to keep the THC level down and security and things like that. But also the stigma, and it's about educating. That's why,
Education is very important in that case, because people need to realise like weed and hemp is two different things.
Exactly. Yeah.
They kind of realise that it can be a big problem for like people like yourself and farmers and everyone else out there.
Big time. Yeah. Absolutely. No, and on that point, we're banding together. I mean, it's great to see other hemp businesses kind of my age, and I mean, Alex has been in hemp for over a decade as well. He's built houses, so we're trying to engage a lot of UK businesses to form a kind of actual kind of collective voice to represent all aspects of the industry, from construction to kind of bioplastics to foods to CBD, kind of covering that, because without that you're still going to get fed misinformation from the media, who kind of catch on to one fact and they might misrepresent it, and it's fascinating and incredible kind of to see how public perception on cannabis and cannabis as a medicine has changed. But it's not come overnight, and it's come from a lot of hard work from a lot of different people. So although hemp and cannabis are very, very different, hemp as an industry, as a wider reaching industry, we need to kind of look to the cannabis activism movement and see how much energy they've put into the marketing of it, but very, very studious kind of approach to developing an industry, and that's kind of what hemp has to do, bound together. But it's a very complicated kettle of fish because there's so many different elements to it. But I think the collaboration and kind of working together is the only way it works. Hempen have got a great kind of model with cooperative, and it's kind of building up kind of local regional cooperatives or regional groups of businesses that kind of benefit from it. I feel like that's kind of the only way to do it. And looking abroad, that's kind of how it's done. So that's a few products and retail products that I made. Hemp flour, hemp protein powder. So yeah, looking abroad is how we're going to kind of get that knowledge and understand how a kind of working, productive and profitable industry is built. Because we're 20 odd years behind Canada in terms of hemp foods. We're a number of years, well, Russia never prohibited the growth of hemp. It saved a lot of lives during the Russian Revolution. They were continuously growing because they had all these things. But it's looking to the kind of Eastern European countries who have processing facilities set up, and how to put the pieces of the puzzle together. You kind of need to look abroad to proven models, and there's a lot available. So the European Industrial Hemp Association is a great collection of hemp businesses, mostly based in Europe, but now I think a quarter of their members are actually outside of Europe as well. So they represent the industry as a whole. So I've been lucky enough to kind of learn about those guys a lot, and it's fascinating to see how far developed they are. And they're kind of talking on very, very large scale macro economic levels, and we're banding together, and we're working to build up a UK industry. We need to understand how to make that transition. So so interesting aspect, conventional versus organic. It was a big debate for me, moving to organic. Obviously for food purposes it's very important. We want to go beyond organic. We want to grow and get certified, but we also want to work with the soil and in rotation actually grow beneficial crops year on year. So we're looking into a number of different growing kind of structures and ways as well. So organic, but going beyond that. And it's a lot more stable in terms of looking to sell the seed. It's a lot more kind of stable price. There's huge developments in the CBD market all around the world, and regulatory kind of changing around. I mean, Switzerland, for example, have just maybe 6 months ago, they've increased the level of THC to 1%, which is a huge deal in terms of what potential varieties you can grow and cultivate. They were 0.3%, which is higher than the rest of Europe. So there are challenges in exporting in that respect as well, because you have there was a case where there was some hemp milk from a farm in Switzerland. Oh no, sorry, regular milk, or dairy milk, because the cattle were grazing on hemp fodder, and they actually tested the milk, and it had a higher THC content than the rest of Europe, so it got banned. And this is a crazy kind of crazy structure how it's all set up, and the AHA and Nova Institute helped to educate the European Commission and European regulators in terms of getting them kind of on board with hemp and seeing it as an economic driver, which it should be. And then again, Australia, for example, they're kind of gone backwards in CBD positions. So they've just allowed hemp foods on the market after years of banning hemp as a food. I mean, it's legal to grow hemp in Australia, but they had to ship it out the country or label it as not for human consumption. So again, there's stories of people buying hemp seeds not for human consumption, like you're going to rub it on your skin or something. I mean, it's mad. But now they've changed that rule, so you can have hemp foods. You're allowed to have hemp seed oil, and you're not going to get arrested for that, which is great. But CBD, they've kind of cracked down on the CBD angle. And again, it's a kind of reactionary measure, it seems. It's like CBD is going to get you high. So they've kind of reversed their tolerance on cannabinoids and cannabidiol in particular, which is mad. There's a lot of really good things going on, so I'm skipping around, you probably can't read it anyway, but so in the Czech Republic they've got a patient-focused certification, which is a set of standards in terms of cannabinoid extraction, where they're trying to instigate some real kind of medical kind of sign off for anyone who's producing a product for market. It's focused on the end users' health and well-being, and this is kind of mapped on an American set of standards, but it's certifications like this which really add some legitimacy to the industry and to what you're doing. So obviously we're building an industry, but there's a lot of different entrants, in particular in the CBD market. There's a lot of different businesses and products available out there, and rightfully so. They should be available to everyone, particularly in low doses. It should be it's a food supplement level, as a natural level. Should be readily available, but you should also buy a product with the reassurance and the kind of trust that it's been put to some actual kind of certification standards and actually had some investigation, which most things aren't at the moment, unfortunately. And again, that goes through to kind of the building industry. Every industry needs these certification standards. I mean, the BHO and kind of SALSA is one in the food industry. Their industry kind of standards, I don't know, kind of usual fare, but we need to integrate those in into adding the legitimacy. That also helps to reduce the stigma of, oh, hemp is going to get you high kind of thing. That first question is like, it's not going to get you high. This is the cannabinoid content, this is THC content, this is CBD, and these are what it's going to do for you, and these are the nutritional benefits. And obviously there's restrictions on how you label things and things like that, but I think some kind of certification would be great across the board. And people are doing that already in Czech Republic and Canada and America, so it's looking to those guys and understanding how they went about that process is important. So that's what we're working towards. And another big threat at the moment to the UK industry is it's also a very big positive, obviously. The USA have just introduced the Farm Bill 2018, which obviously next year will come into play, and they're decriminalising the growth of industrial hemp, which is huge. That's a federal level as well, not state level. So they're going to be growing a lot more hemp, which is great. It's great for them. But they're going to grow very, very quick. Obviously they've got resources, they've got land, and they've got a lot available to them. So we need to, obviously with competition from China and Canada already, and all around Europe, we need to really develop value in what we're producing and the processes that we're using. We really need to make sure that our qualities are better, or the best, or as good as, or if not better than the rest of the world. Otherwise people won't buy from UK, because you get a better product. So yeah, that's so talk a little bit about the upcoming projects that's going on. So a lot of interesting things, academic side of things. There's a lot of people who are interested in hemp in a wider scale than just CBD, and it's kind of, there's vouchers, research vouchers and collaboration vouchers and kind of opportunities out there, instigated by the European Union, but also from within the UK, to collaborate with academic institutions and businesses, to share information and knowledge and learn together. So there's a lot of different potential projects, and we're a part of 2 or 3 which are really exciting, and I got approached by another one last week, which is, yeah, again, really good. It's nice to be kind of part of that, and that's the kind of the thing we need to keep flowing. We need as many researchers and as much resources thrown into like the long-term potentials, because that's the innovative aspect is huge. And I mean, you can make a battery from hemp. This is a huge one. Nanotechnology and graphene can be replaced by using hemp. So graphene's an incredible superconductor, used in kind of Tesla batteries and things like that. It stores a lot of energy very quickly. Can be used in that respect, and hemp does. Yeah, it's super. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, and at 1,000th of the price. So it's very exciting, but that's in development stages. But it's those kind of things that we need to kind of keep pushing, and there's a lot of mistakes, and research obviously is a trial and error situation, but lots of exciting things on those horizons. So we're also involved in Food Matters Live, going to be attending, and hopefully we'll be working on a hemp zone, where we're engaging people to using hemp foods in their diet, and hopefully going to be working with top chefs to bring it to people's plates, and doing demonstrations, and people will understand the applications a lot more in a kind of live workshop setting, that kind of environment. So we're bounding together with a few businesses that are already attending the event, to hopefully make a big noise about the benefits and the properties, and to attract new kind of entrants to the market. So that's very exciting. Yeah, we're going to be in a cookbook, which is a bit crazy, but also quite fun. Yeah, so that's a kind of, again, it was thrown at me. We did a nice fun photo shoot at my friend's house, and yeah, cooked up a bit of a storm. But yeah, it's getting hemp out there and normalising it, very important. And there's a lot of impressive vegan chefs out there who are making a splash and a noise with using this ingredient, but it's also using it in conventional cooking and conventional food preparation. So there's a long way to go in terms of educating.
In terms of like approach, if someone's got like an idea of that sort, like if someone's a chef out there and experimenting like hemp, do they like just approach you guys?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's how easy it is to get help.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I've got stock available. I've got oil, we've got whole seed, we've got protein powder. We have a number of different products that we want to play around with. We want to understand, again, like the issue with the farmers, we want to understand what their kind of concerns are. We also want to like understand like the creative mind of a chef is completely different to like my kind of agriculture. Yeah, we bring it to market, but we want to understand what would be a new way of working with it and playing around with it. So a little roundup of the next, ideal kind of progression in the next 3 years. Obviously everything's dynamic and change kind of plans and things like that, but we're really targeting kind of processing, developing the innovation, kind of innovative processing techniques and things like that, working with businesses in the UK and abroad. There's a lot of really impressive work from some of the German research facilities, which we're kind of doing some kind of cross collaboration, and that's really a huge part of the industry today, collaborating and getting that balance between actually having like a respect and nurturing the plant for what it is, and yeah, just making the best products, but also you have to be very professional about how you work in the industry. So it's finding that level, that balance is important. Yeah, and making a bit of noise. So the British Hemp Association, which we're kind of bounding together, a group of really inspiring businesses. We're trying to kind of join the dots of that network, and everyone's very keen, and we all have a shared passion, kind of shared vision, just trying to actually communicate that with the outside world. So at very early stages of that, but it's one to kind of watch out for, and hopefully we'll have some more in store very soon. but there's so many amazing people in hemp, and a lot of people you can kind of you can trust and kind of you connect with very quickly, and that's very encouraging. I think it's great as an industry to have such a kind of growth potential in terms of actually like this could be a thing. This obviously it's got food, you've got so many different angles and facets, and there's new ways for different people to get involved. So it's great to see all these people that you can kind of trust and all got a shared vision. It's not just Vitality Hemp or Hempen or the East Yorkshire Hemp. Everyone's kind of bounded together for a better kind of hempy future. Thank you. Thanks guys. Cheers.